Hello guys, welcome to the Tech Time channel, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you all of my phones, tablets, and laptops. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with the phones, then the tablets, then the laptops. Let's get started. So the first device is this Galaxy S4 Zoom. Beautiful device, even 11 years later. Got that 16 megapixel 10 times optical zoom lens. Got the camera grip, Xeon flash. This is a very camera focused device. 4.3-inch Super AMOLED display, and this device does work perfectly. Next, we got the Galaxy S2. This device also works perfectly, and we got a 8 megapixel 1080p camera, 4.3-inch Super AMOLED display. Really nice device. Next up is the Galaxy Core Prime. This also works perfectly fine. There's only a little bit of a chip in the back cover, but it works totally fine other than that. We got a 5 megapixel 720p camera, 4.5-inch LCD screen. Pretty cool device. Then we got the Xcover 4S, which is from 2019. It does have this little crack around here, but it still does work perfectly fine with no problems. This is a absolute tank of the device. This is not breaking anytime soon, and it does work perfectly. And we also got these satisfying buttons. Really nice device, actually. Next up, we're going back to 2018 with the Galaxy A8, and this is one of the most beautiful devices in my collection. We're talking about Gorilla Glass 4 on the front, Gorilla Glass 4 on the back. Beautiful aluminium sides, very strong, very nice. It does have quite a big crack along here, but the device does still work fine. And man, this device, really nice. Alright, next up, we're taking a trip down memory lane with the Galaxy S3, which is 12 years old at this point. This device does work perfectly fine. Got that 8 megapixel 1080p camera, which still doesn't look too bad even 12 years later. Got that 4.8-inch Super AMOLED screen. Really, really nice device. Then we're getting something a little newer, the Galaxy S5 from 2014. We're talking about a 4K camera, guys, in 2014. We got a LED flash. We got that heart rate sensor, 5.1-inch 1080p Super AMOLED display. This device does work perfectly. And now we're going to go to the Galaxy S4 4G Plus, also known as the Galaxy S4 Advanced. Got that 5-inch 1080p Super AMOLED display, 30 megapixel camera. Pretty nice device, and it does work perfectly. Alright, next up, we're taking a trip down to something that kind of failed. Nokia plus Windows Phone. Both of those things are in the garbage now. Nokia phones suck. Windows phones are gone. But man, this device still looks beautiful. We're talking about an aluminium frame, glass front. Hey, sure, it's a plastic back, but this thing had wireless charging. I think it was one of the first phones that had wireless charging. And I just love this design. That curve with the sharp on the edge. Oof. Really nice innovation. This device does work perfectly fine. And yeah, pretty nice. Alright, now we are taking it back to 2015, nearly a decade ago. That sounds pretty hard to swallow, but we got the S6 Edge Plus, which was one of the best devices in 2015. This device does work perfectly. It just has this weird coloration thing on the bezel, and around here there is a spot of dead pixels, but other than that, it works perfectly fine. And this is such a beautiful device. Just the way that curve goes around the display. Oof, 16 megapixel 4K camera, 5.7-inch 1440p Super AMOLED display. Perfect. Love that device. Love it, love it, love it. Now we have the Galaxy A12, which is actually one of my older phones that I used as a daily driver. And this thing is kind of old now. This case is starting to, stick together a bit, but it does work fine. It's got parental controls on it, all that annoying stuff, and it doesn't really work the best. It's just in my collection just for memories, because when I got this device I was really happy. Yeah, but man, Galaxy A12, Works pretty okay, but it's got parental controls on it, so not the best. Next, we're taking it to Futuristic Town. Hiya! We got the Galaxy Z Flip 3. Obviously, it can fold. Really nice device. Pretty cool. Got that dual camera, back-firing screen. This device works perfectly fine. It's just there's little spots of green on there, although it doesn't really affect the use. The next device that we're going to be showing is this Huawei P20 Lite, and it's got a dual camera, fingerprint sensor. I believe it's a 5.7-inch 1080p display. I need to look into that a bit more. But pretty nice phone, works perfectly. Yeah, pretty nice. Now we got my old phone, the Galaxy A14 5G. Man, this thing is a chunk of a phone, especially with this beefy case on it. It works perfectly fine. There's quite a couple of scratches on it, but like, man, this thing is a pretty nice phone. It works perfectly. Decent camera, decent display, decent speaker. Not a bad phone even today. Alright, now we got these like little Nokia feature phone. It's got a 2-megapixel camera, an upwards facing flashlight, because why not? Let's just throw it in there. Pretty satisfying buttons. Kind of silent though. Does work perfectly, but it's very, very limited. Like, it's 2G only. There's no Wi-Fi. There's barely any apps. Yeah, it's kind of useless, but it's cool to have in the collection, like a vintage Nokia feature phone. Now we've got a classic Apple device, and my only Apple device. Sorry, Apple fans. I know you're screaming in the comments, but the iPhone 4 is a beautiful device. This is when Apple was at their prime, man. And even me, a Samsung fanboy, I gotta say, at that time, this phone smashed the Galaxy S. It had a better screen, a better camera, LED flash, and just, feels so good. To this day, this works perfectly fine. And even though, wait for it, it's 14 years old, it still works fine, and the battery health isn't too bad. I can get a couple of hours out of it without having to put it on charge. So, very nice job, Apple. Very nice job. Next up, we got this ZTE Blade Telstra phone. I believe it's the A50. I'm not too sure. It's a pretty low-end device. Got this like abomination of thick bezels and like this black border. It's kind of weird. I believe this is a 5-megapixel camera with 720p video. There's also a 5-inch LCD screen, but yeah, pretty simple ZTE Blade phone, and it works perfectly fine. Next, we got the Alcatel 1C, and yeah, Alcatel was not good, but this is a pretty premium feeling device. You got a fingerprint sensor, 8-megapixel 1080p camera. I think maybe they upscaled it to 30 megapixels using software, but it's actually 8 megapixels. I believe this is a 5.3-inch 480p screen, so pretty pixelated, but it feels alright, you know? Feels alright. Hey, sure, it's nothing, Samsung or Apple would make, but feels pretty okay, and it does work perfectly. Alright, next device, we got this Samsung feature phone from 2012. And we do have a removable back and a removable battery. And I'm just going to check the model number. So the model number is GTE1170T. So pretty simple device from 2012. I'm just going to put it back together. It's like a Lego set. You know how you build up your Lego set and you can undo it? Yeah, man. I miss those times where you could just undo your phone, slap out the battery, put in a fresh new one. Those were the days, lad. Very satisfying buttons. Probably the best buttons that I have. Very nice. Very satisfying. We do have a proprietary charging port because, yeah, of course, it's going to be a proprietary charging port. And there's no headphone jack either. So, like, man, this device, bro, that came before the iPhone 7 and the Galaxy S20, which were the devices to remove the headphone jacks for Samsung and Apple. But nice, it does work perfectly fine. And I also have the charger. Haven't charged it in a very long time, though. Now, this is my first ever phone. And this is the Nokia 6260 slide, bro. The memories on this guy, oof, I'm just getting nostalgia by just holding this thing. Pretty decent sounding buttons, not as good as those Samsung ones, but nice. And this hinge, even though this device is 15 years old, this hinge still feels so smooth. Nokia's back in the day, oh my goodness me. They were the best phones that you could get. 5 megapixel autofocus camera. And look at that lens size. Like, that is not a bad lens size even today, you know? It's even got, like, a cover to protect the camera. Dual LED flash, man. This thing is nostalgia. It does work perfectly. And the battery health is still alright. I can get about an hour out of it. But, yeah, as every old phone, it's starting to fall apart. And you guys are going to love this one. This is just some random dodgy Wish phone. And yeah, it's had quite a couple of rages from me. The amount of cracks on this thing, yeah, quite a couple of throws, quite a couple of scratches. But it still does work, like the screen works. It's got a bit of ghost touch, if you don't know what that is. Like the screen acts without you touching, but it does work. I was able to get Minecraft on it, it's just really slow. Yeah, it's a fake camera, fake everything. Yuck. It does work though, as I was saying, and yeah. And now the last phone, the phone that I'm filming with, and my daily driver, the Galaxy A35 5G. Now everybody's saying, oh, you should buy the highest end phones. This thing is not bad. Like, it was cheap, man. It's got a good screen, good speakers, good camera. Like, man, like, this is some decent footage from the front camera right now. But, yeah, I'll suggest this. Really good phone. Yeah, it's got that 50 megapixel rear camera, 13 megapixel selfie camera, 6.6 inch 120 hertz Super AMOLED screen, covered with Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, blah, blah, blah. Lots of nice features. Now, let's get on to the tablets. And we're going to start with my first ever tablet, the Galaxy Tab A 8.0 from 2015. Now, this model does not have the S Pen, but it does have SIM card and 2 gigabytes of RAM versus the regular 1.5 gigs of RAM. And like, man, again, holding this thing, nostalgia. It's pretty chunky, man. Like, I haven't used a tablet in quite a bit of time. Like, this thing feels actually chunky, man. It does work absolutely perfectly. There is a pretty big scratch right over here, but guys, when I had this thing, I was like 2 years old, so don't blame me. Alright, next up, we got the one and only bigger version of that. I'm just going to do a quick size compare so you guys can see. This is the first one, and this is the second one. Now, this is from the same year, same device. This is obviously the bigger model, but there's no SIM card in this bad boy. And there's also only 1.5 gigs of RAM. But, like, this thing is big, bro. Man, this thing is nice. It does work very well. It's just all these old Samsung tablets, they get really slow. So, like, they're basically unusable. Like, the only thing you can use on them is very light web browsing, very light YouTube on what 480p, maybe 720. I don't know, maybe just a tiny bit of, maybe just a really old version of Minecraft. But, like, man, these things, they're old. But they're nice to have in my collection. Now, my main tablet, this thing's a chunky one, even bigger than the last one. The Tab A9 Plus, it works perfectly, barely a scratch on it. I've had it for nearly a year now. We got this nice Andonit Mark pen. You guys have seen this in my tech carry video when I reached 10 subs. 8 megapixel camera on the back, 1080p video, 11-inch 90 hertz LCD screen, all protected in this nice Cyganet case. As you can see, really nice device. Whew. This is a lot of devices, guys. Alright, next up, we got the Tab A7 Lite. Now, this is my old tablet. This is actually still usable. I can still play some Minecraft on it. It's pretty good for YouTube videos. You can crank it up to like 1080p and it doesn't lag. It's an alright tablet. It works perfectly fine. It's just here, it's like a little bit bent open. And if you like pull really hard here, like if you rage on a game or something, the screen will become a little bit white along this area. But after 30 seconds, it does repair itself. But like, it's kind of falling apart, man. And the last tablet, and the oldest one too, is this Tab Note 10.1. We got it in like a similar color to the S3 that I have. And this thing is actually alright. It actually even has battery in it from the last time that I charged it from the last video. And obviously, we got that S Pen, baby. This is why I even still keep this thing in my collection. Like, the battery, it's alright. It can last a couple of hours, but it isn't the best either. Got a 10.1 inch display. I believe it's 720p. It's pretty pixelated. But the main reason why I even use this thing and why it's even charged is just having that dedicated pen. It's nice, bro. Well. Alright, and now, I guess you guys are probably waiting for this. The laptop. So the first one out of the three is the little Asus laptop. It is 10.1 inches. For the ports, pretty simple. Mini HDMI, micro USB, headphone jack, micro SD, and on this part we have the USB 3.0. Yeah, it's a pretty simple device. An Intel Atom processor from like 2014, 2 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of eMMC storage. It's pretty slow, but like I like to use it still for like putting software on some of my devices, like. You know, I might think of jailbreaking my iPhone 4 so I can get a really old version of Minecraft on it. Maybe working. So, yeah, I'll definitely look it in. And if I do it, I'm going to do it on this little kid here. Because it's still useful. Like, hey, it's slow, but like, for downloading software, it's fine. It still works. Ugh. Alright, my main laptop, the Surface Book 1 from 2015. Now, at its time of release, this laptop was one of the best ones that you could buy. Performance was okay, even for its time. I will upgrade soon, because it is starting to be a little slower than usual. But it is a pretty nice device. It still feels very premium. We have the Surface Pen. We got this Samsung USB in it, and an SD card as well. Pretty good port selection. Talking about 2 USB-A's, 1 micro SD, 1 headphone jack, the Surface charger, and a mini display port. So pretty good overall. And both of these laptops do work. This Surface works perfectly fine. And so does that little Asus one, which we reviewed a couple of minutes ago. And now the last device and the biggest. And I'm nearly gonna break my soul just carrying this thing. You guys probably know it, but we got the Asus 15.6-inch notebook. It requires 90 watts of power, so it is pretty powerful. In terms of the ports, we're talking about D-Sub, full-size HDMI, gigabit Ethernet, 2 USB 3.0 ports, 1 headphone jack / microphone, SD card full-size, by the way, a full-on DVD player. A USB 2.0 and the DC in. It is a chunk. It's obviously 15.6 inches. It's got like an AMD A8. I'm just going to see which chip it is because it shows inside when you open it up. And let me just check. Yep. It is an AMD A8 5550M, which is a 2.1 gigahertz chip. It's definitely not the fastest thing, but it works. Like, it can do YouTube, some web browsing, maybe a bit of light Minecraft, but it works. Got a pretty satisfying keyboard. If you want to listen to the keyboards, then check out my first video. I got a great video talking about all these keyboards and stuff. Pretty nice trackpad too. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this awesome video. And yeah, this was just the first video because I just wanted to show you guys all the tech that I have. And there will be future videos coming up when I get new devices. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and peace out.